Hey everyone, just another quick video on the Mini Cooper, and here we can see some of the more interesting features of it. It's the front suspension, and here is where the power steering pump sits, right there. There's our hoses. These two hoses have kind of failed on this one, so they will be replaced. However, the ball joints are in good shape, although this one has a torn boot, and the rack is in good shape. By the way, if you go to BMW and want to buy this pump, it's $800. And the little fan that cools it is $275. I know this because the previous owner paid to have these replaced, so I guess I lucked out. Now we're also going to go over some of the weird engineering quirks and features that the Mini Cooper has. If we look at the engine block here, try to get a better view of this, you can see right here and all the way across there's a parting line. The engine block is actually in two pieces. The bottom holds the, holds the rod caps and everything in one piece. And there's an 8-bolt crank flange. It's interesting, for a 115 horsepower engine, this is kind of more than a little overbuilt. And then the oil pan can also kind of be a structural member because it's so well built. Now under here we see it has a hydraulic clutch, but the size of the bolts that hold the engine and transmission together are massive compared to any other small four-cylinder that I've worked on. I worked on my Frontier and did the transmission on that about a week ago, and the bolts are probably only 3/4 the size, maybe 7/8. They're not, and here's the other thing: 8-bolt crankshaft. Why? I could probably do with 5 or 6 bolts on a 4-cylinder engine of this power output. And if you're wondering where the cables for the shifter go, right up here under the heat shield, huge pain in the ass to get to. Likewise, the whole subframe bolts under here. And here's the easy way to get the ball joints out. You don't actually have to focus. Come on. You don't actually have to bang them out and break the taper. They just bolt to the bottom of the control arm, so you just unbolt them when you're putting it in service position. And I love the service position euphemism here. Because look at how stripped this car has to be to get out the transmission. Now granted, I don't have to take this cover off, I was just curious what was under it, and it's just the injectors and injector rail. But there's no battery. The battery normally goes right here. Here's the throttle by wire throttle body, and here's another source of oil leak right here. Now I ordered some Viton oil rings, or O-rings, and I'm going to change that, but this is the crankshaft position sensor. If you're wondering where that is, it's right here under the intake manifold, and good luck ever getting to it with the vehicle not in service position because the radiator is right up against it. So you have got to pull the whole front end apart to get to that. Also, I've got to put it in service position to change the drive belt. That was done by the previous owner, so luckily I don't have to. Now what's another thing? The hydraulic motor mount right here. Yeah, that's not getting changed yet, but I do have a replacement for it because it has failed. Let's see, what else can I show you for the Mini Curious? Now it is a McPherson strut front suspension. The bump stops have kind of failed in this one, and I will be replacing them before driving the car, but they're at the top up here. And you can see they're crumbling, coming apart, and so they'll be replaced. Brakes are single piston design front caliper, same in the rear, with the rear having the parking brake. It's not a Saab, you don't have the parking brake on the front. And you can see this car is really straight. Here's the only rust I found on it. Rust free, never in an accident. So kind of a good find for someone like me who's looking to kind of build one of these. Kind of not, but but it's a nice starting point. And here's the water pump. This is the non-supercharged version. Supercharged version, it's a bigger pain in the ass because it's some strange configuration. Here's the air conditioning compressor. And here we have the harmonic balancer, which is also the crank pulley. And behind here you would have your timing chain, and this is the oil pan. And I'm not showing this to the people who are car guys and who know what this is, but if you're just getting started and you're curious and you have one of these cars, you're curious about it, this is kind of what this is intended for. And if you've never had one, well, this is a very detailed tour of it. Now up here we have our exhaust system, and to me it kind of appears like it might be at least partially stainless steel. There's our rear suspension. It is four-wheel independent. The rear suspension design is taken from the BMW E46, as is the front suspension design, where a lot of the engineering is. The actual parts, I don't think they interchange too many parts. This car does have the rear spare tire, because it's not supercharged. If it was supercharged, it would have a tire inflation kit, because the battery goes in the back and it takes up the space that the spare tire would take. And notice, interestingly, the spare tire is below, if you can see it, is below the floor, not above it. And interestingly, they do have a little spot that you can inflate the tire, so you don't have to take it down to inflate it. Now, one of the things I've done here, see, there's a block of wood under the frame rail to spread the load, because the actual jacking point where you're supposed to put the load is this plastic piece here, and another one at the rear. And that's where you would jack the car up. But of course, that's not really a practical place to hold it. Once you have the jack under here, you're not going to be able to put two things under there at the same time. Kind of impossible in the world of physics. So, yeah. And here we go. Here we have the back of the engine. And this is right here. This seal was leaking. It's the what do you call it? The oil filter adapter. Let's see if I can get the camera to refocus. And there's your starter. Now, to get the upper starter bolt out, you have to remove the oil filter adapter. So if you're doing a starter, and this is, I think, what happened to this one, it was leaking from there, you're going to have to get that seal. It's about $5 or $6 off Rock Auto, so they're not really that expensive. And I do like the way the exhaust is set up. This is, of course, very similar to a Dodge Neon, which the Pentagon engine that this car has was kind of based on the Chrysler A420 engine that you would find in the Neon. I believe that would be in the Neon Espresso. And yeah, let's see here. What else? Oh, there's your torque limiter mount. That bolts here to the suspension cross member, and then through here. See, it's nice shiny paint on here. Everything's in really good condition on this car. It was very well taken care of by its previous owners, but it just needed too much for the people who owned it this time, and they had only driven it about 3,000, 4,000 miles, and they already put a starter and a battery, and they were told $1,500 for a clutch. So they punted it to me for $1,900, and I've had to put some work in, but I'll still be in the money on it if I were to go sell it, although I don't really plan to sell it. I've always wanted one of these cars, so I will be making it my daily driver. And I'm trying to see what else we can show you. Well, that's about it. Oh, here's the washer fluid tank. Comes down here, and here's an area that if you buy one of these cars, you should take the inner fender liner out, and this goes for pretty much any car, and clean it out. Notice this little cap plug here, it's got a hole in it. I will be replacing that little plug before I put this car back together. But you want to take and clean out all your leaves and your debris from here, because this will be a source of corrosion and rust on a lot of cars. Geo Metros were infamous for this. They would rot out in this section because the leaves and debris would collect water and road salt, and it would just rot the car out from there. as well as the entire front subframe would rot out on those cars. But that was my previous small car experience, and I liked it, but it doesn't drive anywhere near as nicely as this. But that is a very important thing to do if you plan to keep a car for a long time. You want to get the leaves and the debris out of it. Now we can come around to the rear suspension and we can see the beer can exhaust tip. Looks like the bottom of a beer can because that is actually what it was modeled after. Supposedly the story is that the designer, Frank Stevenson, he forgot to put a tailpipe on the car, and so he stuck a beer can back there hurriedly into the clay mold, and the BMW executives saw the car, loved it so much, said, "Brilliant, don't change a damn thing." And so he got stuck with that. And here is the rear suspension. You can see it has a fairly sophisticated multi-link rear suspension system with probably has passive four-wheel steering. I don't know for certain, but I know that a lot of the better cars do. Being based on the E46, it probably does. Anyway, this is a tour underneath the Mini Cooper to show you all the little details that you might want to see. Oh, and one more detail I'll show you. This one surprised me. Take a look at this tire. Really doesn't look bad, does it? Now we have our, right here we have 03 of 15. That is the date that it was made. That's the 3rd week of 2015. But if we go underneath it, we see right by the Goodyear thing, it's come apart. The whole sidewall of the tire is compromised and it is ripping off of the carcass of the tire. It's actually a very dangerous situation, and I'm glad I pulled the tires off of this thing before I really drove it, because that would have caused a lot of damage to the car and potentially to me. I don't know why there's a piece of plastic hanging from there, but I guess I'll take care of that. And here is our gas tank, intersected by the exhaust pipe. Yeah, maybe it's not stainless. I don't know. But anyway, that's been the tour underneath the Mini Cooper. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for watching.